My name is Elizabeth Miller, and this is the part of my story I avoided telling for years because remembering it still tightens my chest. After college, I believed life would open doors for me. I had a degree, ambition, and the kind of hope only young people carry. But New York City doesn't care about hope. It cares about rent, deadlines, and survival. Student loans started calling before I even found my footing. My savings disappeared fast. Pride had to step aside. That's how I ended up working at a small vegetable store in Brooklyn, tucked between a laundromat and a coffee shop. Every morning, I unlocked the door before sunrise. I washed crates, arranged produce, checked freshness again and again. I told myself this job didn't define me, it was just a chapter. I smiled at customers even when my feet burned and my back ached. I believed kindness was still worth something. Most days were quiet, ordinary. Until he walked in. He looked like money. Expensive coat. Sharp watch. The kind of man who never questioned his place in the world. He didn't greet me. He didn't ask for help. He walked straight to the vegetables and began picking through them, squeezing. Tomatoes. Bending leafy greens, filling his bag with whatever he wanted. He paid and left. A week later, he returned. Jimmy. His steps were heavy, angry. He slammed a plastic bag onto the counter. Inside were vegetables wilted, discolored, lifeless. There, he sighed loudly. You cheated me! I felt my stomach tighten, but I kept my voice calm. Sir, you bought these a week ago. Vegetable, but it's okay, I'll replace them with fresh ones. I meant it. I wanted peace. Then the door opened behind him. A few of my college friends walked in, people who knew my dreams, my potential. The version of me that once sat in lecture halls believing she'd be something more. I felt exposed. The man noticed them, too. He looked from them. Becky. A slow smile crept across his face, the kind that knows it has power. In one sudden motion, he grabbed the vegetables from the bag and threw them straight into my face. Leaves slapped against my skin. Moisture ran down my cheeks. The smell hit me last. Dart, he sighed loudly. This is all you're good for. The store went silent. I heard my heartbeat in my ears. I felt everyone staring, my friends, strangers, people who didn't know me but would remember this moment. My hands shook. My throat burned. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. But I didn't cry. I stood there, frozen, humiliated, trying to hold together what little dignity I had left. That night, I didn't just quit the job. I quit being invisible. I quit accepting disrespect. And somewhere inside that broken silence, a stronger Elizabeth was born. One who would never forget this day. After that day, I didn't talk much. I stopped answering calls from friends who didn't know what to say. I avoided places where someone might recognize me. Tonight, I replayed that moment again and again, the sound of vegetables hitting my face. The laughter I imagined, the words that stayed stuck in my head. This is all you're good for. For a while, I believed it. Then one night, sitting alone in my tiny apartment, I looked at my reflection in the dark window and whispered, No, this can't be where my story ends. The next morning, I made a decision that scared me more than anything else. I went back to school. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. My days became brutally routine. I woke up before dawn, studied until my eyes burned, worked part-time wherever I could, then studied again until sleep won. There were nights I cried quietly so my neighbors wouldn't hear. Nights I wondered if I was wasting my time, chasing a future that might never come. But every time doubt crept in, that memory pushed me forward. The humiliation didn't weaken me anymore. It fueled me. I applied to the police academy, not because I wanted power, but because I wanted purpose. I wanted to stand on the side, where no one could throw things at me and walk away. Training was relentless. I was exhausted, bruised, tested physically and mentally. Some days, instructors doubted me. Some recruits underestimated me. And every time someone looked past me, I reminded myself, they don't see what I've survived. I learned discipline, control, silence. I learned that strength isn't loud, it's steady. That confidence isn't proven in arguments, but in restraint. Years passed quietly. Applause, Schatz, just progress. The day I graduated, they called my name. Elisabeth Miller. I walked across that stage with tears in my eyes, not because I had won, but because I had rebuilt myself piece by piece. When I put on my uniform for the first time, I stood in front of the mirror for a long moment. I didn't see the girl from the vegetable store anymore. I saw someone grounded, focused, unbreakable. I didn't crave revenge. I didn't fantasize about confronting him. I trusted something bigger than anger. Truth, and the Allah. What I didn't know was time was already bringing him back into my life. And when it did, I would be ready. Years later, I never expected my past to come knocking. It came in the form of a case landing on my desk at the New York Police Department. A wealthy businessman had assaulted a restaurant waiter, throwing scalding hot coffee over him. The young man suffered second-degree burns, and witnesses confirmed everything. I opened the file and froze. Wasim, the same man who had thrown those vegetables in my face years ago. The same man who humiliated me in front of everyone. I felt my pulse quicken. My stomach churned. I told myself to stay calm. I was no longer that terrified girl behind a counter. I was Elizabeth Miller, police officer. Trained to stay professional, trained to uphold the law. He walked into the interrogation room, smugness slowly leaving his face as he recognized me. His confident gaze faltered, replaced by a flicker of fear. Elisabeth? His voice cracked. We don't need to do this the hard way. I can make it worth your time. Bribe, power, money, influence. He thought he could buy justice, as he always had. I looked at him steadily. You humiliated me once. Today, you'll face the law. Shortcuts, favors, excuses. I gathered evidence meticulously, interviewed witnesses, presented everything with precision. Courtroom hours felt endless, but I stayed steady. Every document, every testimony, every photo of the burns became a piece of justice building around him. Finally, the verdict came. 3 years in prison. As they cuffed him, he glanced back at me. That familiar arrogance had vanished. Only defeat remained. For the first time in years, I exhaled deeply. Not because I had revenge, but because I had justice. Shouting, Noor! No personal attack. I had let the law speak, and it had spoken loud and clear. In that moment, I realized the power of the girl who once stood behind a vegetable counter. Humiliated, silent, broken, had never left me. It had grown. It had matured. It had weighed. And when the time was right, it had delivered truth. I didn't just survive humiliation. I didn't just rise. I became someone no one, especially him, could underestimate again. Because sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous. Not for revenge, but for justice.